Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you guys are having an absolutely great day. So if you don't know what's been going on this past week and next week Black Ops 4 is being revealed through a community event. Graciously, and I'm still in all of it, I got invited to this myself, and we're looking forward to see what Black Ops 4 is going to bring to us later this year. To get this hype train starting a little bit earlier than even the reveal event, Treyarch a couple days ago tweeted out this image. Ever since the image got posted on Twitter, people have been going crazy trying to figure out what the symbols mean, what it could be implying for where the zombies storyline is going, and a bunch of different factors with it in general. Now, for those of you that have known me for a while and everything, y'all would agree that I'm someone that's always been gameplay focused. I always pay attention to story, I always keep up to date with ciphers and everything being solved, but I've never been someone that has actively sought anything in zombies specifically for the storyline. However, I decided for this teaser image, once I started hearing some of the things that other people were finding and such, I wanted to dig around and see what I could figure out for myself. And once I started diving deeper into a lot of these things that we were finding and everything and pieces were coming together, for me, I have never been more interested in a potential storyline than ever before. So I'm going to kind of lay out everything that's been found, that has come to me, things that I've found myself, and how they can tie into all the theories that are already out there, and would love to hear your guys' input and feedback about what you think about my overall theory and grand scheme about how things could play out for Black Ops 4 Zombies. So when you first look at the image, the things that stand out to you the most are the alchemical symbols, the man with the mask, his torn up and destroyed skin, and also the message at the bottom, mankind's reckoning will be its salvation. Now, the word salvation is the key word here, and this was something that Milo, or for those of you who don't know, Mr. Raffle Waffles, I saw first point out. But if you take the word salvation, that's actually what the DLC 4 map pack was for Black Ops 3. Obviously, within that map pack, there was Revelations, the last Treyarch map that we were able to play. So the most basic way to interpret what this catchphrase could be meaning is that our story is going to continue on from where we left off in Revelations. But another thing that I want you guys to keep in mind, and we'll come back and touch on this point later, is that the terms revelation and salvation are huge in terms of biblical references and ties to Christianity, and that's where a lot of what these teasers are going to tie back into, but we're gonna come back to that later. So now we're gonna focus on all these random weird symbols all over the place. All these symbols originate from alchemy, and if you go throughout history, alchemy has had a very cryptid, a very unique world that has been very different from everything that we're always used to. This is even prevalent in the symbols themselves, because each symbol has both a physical meaning and more of a spiritual meaning to go along with it. On top of that, the purpose of alchemy in itself is essentially to achieve the creation of the Philosopher's Stone. And what this stone is supposed to be able to achieve is a couple of different things. One, it's supposed to take any base item, metal, solid, and be able to turn it either into solid gold or solid silver. And the other attributes that it is supposed to give its holder is it's supposed to give them everlasting life and the ability to cure all diseases. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, how on earth does any of this actually tie into zombies? Well, this all connects to zombies through Newton's Cookbook. Now, Newton's Cookbook was added previous to Zombies Chronicle, and we didn't quite know how it was going to tie into the whole story, but now with these new alchemical symbols, it makes a bit more sense. A few years ago, some of Isaac Newton's private notebooks that he used while he was studying gravity, light, and all these other things came out into the public from private collectors. And it was at this time that we finally discovered and learned that Newton himself was studying the recipe for the Philosopher's Stone and trying to find the missing element to help create it. Now, when it comes to the recipe for the Philosopher's Stone, the one element that most alchemists throughout history had the most difficulty figuring out was how to dissolve the elements to reform them into whatever substance that they were wanting them to become. And Isaac Newton specifically was going towards a concoction called sulfic mercury. Now, what if, and go with me for a second on this, Isaac Newton came across element 115 somehow, and this ended up being his sulfic mercury, or this missing element that allowed him to create these liquid distills that we can use on these gumballs to break them down and reform them into what we actually want. Even with all of that information, the connection with Isaac Newton and the Philosopher's Stone doesn't stop there, because it travels even further back in time, which helps even connect it more to Christianity, like we were talking about earlier with Revelations and Salvation. In one of Newton's writings, he references an individual named Nicholas Flamel. Now, this Nicholas character was an alchemist in the 1300s, and his story is a very, very interesting legend that directly ties a bunch of this stuff together. He started out as a very, very poor man, but started to get into alchemy. One night, he had a vision to which an angel approached him and told him about an old man that would be selling a very specific, strange book. The angel said to him, "At first, you'll understand nothing that is in this, neither you or anyone else who ends up reading it. But one day, you'll be able to see what in this book, what no other man will ever be able to see." Shortly after this vision that he had, an old man approached him on the street wanting to sell him this very strange looking book. The book was made of, basically consisted of tree bark, tree branches, tree leaves, everything. Had very weird symbols all over the cover of it. And the only thing he could make out of the time was the very first page, which had the author of the book. And the author of the book was Abraham the Jew. Nicholas immediately obtained the book from the old man, and very eager to learn what the rest of the book said, he then set out on a journey to find someone else of the Jewish culture to help him understand the unknown writings. He only ever came across one individual that was able to help him only decipher some of the book, not even the entire thing. But with the little bit that was able to be deciphered from it, Nicholas then learned the recipe and was able to create the Philosopher's Stone for himself, turning around his poor lifehood, giving him amounts of wealth, and be able to spread this wealth to others that were very poor as well. For right now, there's one major key aspect to this entire legend from Nicholas Flamel that we're going to focus on, and it's going to be Abraham the Jew. Now, if you don't know who Abraham the Jew is, or also known as Abram, he is basically the center from which many religions stem from. Specifically, the one that we're going to be focusing on is Christianity. If this prominent figure of Christianity was able to write this book that in it had the recipe for the Philosopher's Stone, that means our entire storyline is going to have a very strong Christian biblical influence to much of its story, more than likely. We already have the evidence of this of just the map Revelations itself, which can almost be a one-to-one correlation of the story of the apocalypse in the Bible itself even. It can also help possibly tell us who the man in the mask is on the teaser picture that Treyarch tweeted out. Right now, the leading candidate for this individual is indeed King Baldwin IV of Jerusalem. Now, what ties King Baldwin possibly to being the man in the mask is that King Baldwin IV had very severe leprosy. What leprosy is you cannot feel any pain, but then your skin also starts to get lesions and sores and begins to deteriorate on itself even as well, which the man in the image also appears to be. Not only on top of that, but King Baldwin IV's image has lately also been associated with wearing a mask, and this is all because of the movie Kingdom of Heaven back in 2005. Now, unfortunately, this mask doesn't actually exist in real life. However, the movie was so popular, and since Movie Magic added this mask, it's possible that if Treyarch is going to do this, they're going to envision this as him as well. Now, here's where things begin to get really potentially juicy with my interpretation of where this theory and storyline could be going. So, as you've probably heard from other YouTubers' videos and such, King Baldwin IV also still led his troops in the battle, even though with this severe disease that he was having. And his greatest battle was at the Battle of Montgizard against the forces of Saladin from Egypt. Now, with someone to have such a severe disease, how could they possibly have the strength to be able to go out and fight in battle? My potential theory for this is that the mask he is wearing is actually a form of the Philosopher's Stone. While he wears this mask, all of his disease is momentarily cured, and it doesn't bother him, it doesn't affect him. He is essentially a very fine human being with no problems at all. And on top of this, he has immortality, so then he can go into battle and he doesn't have to fear about dying either. You may now be asking your question though, is how would someone like King Baldwin IV come across the Philosopher's Stone? And there's two different alleys that both connect back towards him for this and connection to zombies. The first one is the city of Jerusalem himself, to which he is the king. The city of Jerusalem is a very important city throughout all of Christian history, throughout all of Christianity. It has a lot of references and a lot of events took place there, especially involving Jesus Christ. And as I was mentioning earlier with Nicholas Flamel, you can trace the history of alchemy all the way to the beginning of time through Christian history. So it's very, very possible that the city of Jerusalem itself holds secrets that maybe only the hierarchies could access, such as a recipe for the Philosopher's Stone. The other connection, which adds zombies into the mix for this as well, is the fact that the Templars exist underneath King Baldwin IV's command and in the city of Jerusalem at the time. The Templars that came there originated even from France, which coincidentally happens to be the same place that Origins is at. And here comes the bigger mystery behind the Knight Templars potentially going to Jerusalem itself. The Knight Templars are said to be the protectors of the Holy Grail. And now, what if the Knight Templars heard about this Philosopher's Stone that potentially existed there, and they were sent there to protect it from falling into the wrong hands? Now, after sitting there and listening and thinking about how all these things potentially connect, is it very possible that none of this ends up being in Black Ops 4? Yeah. It's very, very possible. This is all just my theory and how I see everything connecting with the very little information that we have. However, even knowing very, very little, literally only one single image, you can even go back through all of this history I just went through and find even more tidbits of zombies' potential throughout all of this Christianity, biblical history that they're more than likely going to be playing off of. One quick example of this is the book that Nicholas Flamel received. He was told that he was the only one that would be able to read it and get the information out of it for him to use himself. This seems very, very representative of what potentially could be another Chronorium that is just filled with massive amount of information that the user can use to their own will. However, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video off there, so that way you guys can continue to go research yourself and see if you guys can find any more new interesting theories about other potential biblical references that involve alchemy and could potentially go to anywhere in history that might even make more sense than King Baldwin IV. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and hopefully you guys found this really, really interesting. This is, again, the first time I've ever been this interested in where a story could potentially be going for a video game, and I'm super, super on board with this if this is where Treyarch ends up taking it. So I'm super excited for Black Ops 4 to come out. Let me know down below what you thought about my theory, if you thought it was good, if it wasn't, what you did like, what you didn't like, what you think could be similar but different. Any of your opinions, let me know down below. And until the next video or the next stream, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye now.